Hi, welcome to Nina in the Kitchen, where today I am making a beautiful spring risotto. And I'm calling it a spring risotto because all of the spring veggies are in. I have little fresh peas, I have asparagus, and I'm finishing it with shrimp. It's delicious. I made this for us one night and decided this should go up on YouTube. So I'm here to share this with you. Risotto, if you don't know it, is a short grain rice from Italy. Riso, meaning rice. Risotto is not only a dish, but it's also a technique, and that is what I'm really going to stress today, because once you understand the technique of risotto and why you're doing things, then you can make as many different combinations of risotto as you can come up with in your imagination. Anything you can do with a pasta dish, you can do with a risotto. You can make it vegetarian, seafood, you name it. I'm going to start out by talking about how I have prepped for this. Some of this prep can be done weeks in advance, really. I make a homemade stock. If you use a boxed or a store-bought stock, that's fine. You want to go low sodium, because what happens here is it's going to dissipate, and you're going to be left with a very salty, probably not what you want for your dish. The other thing is, if you make a very rich stock, then you're going to want to go half and half, again, because of that dissipation. You want it to be very balanced. So you might want to add water to that chicken stock. Okay, let me show you what I've done. This is a seafood stock, and I made this using shrimp shells. I'm just using shrimp in here. You take the shells off of a shrimp. I saved one so I could show you what I do. This is a beautiful Gulf shrimp. They call it a vein right there. Well, that's actually a digestive tract, and we all know what's in there, right? So you want to get that out of there. I go right down the middle with my beautiful little knife, take the shell off. The shell goes into the stock pot, and then this vein, intestinal tract, comes right out. Come on, you. There we go. And you throw that away. The other thing I prepped is this asparagus. I'm using 5 spears of asparagus. I chopped them into these little bite-sized pieces, put them in some of this shrimp broth, and put that into a pot. Let it steam a little bit. You don't want it to be very cooked, because it's still going to cook a little bit more in here. And I'm going to do the same with the shrimp. All one pot, which I love. I'm going to put some olive oil in the bottom of this, just a little bit. The main fat in risottos, by and large, is going to be butter. So this is, I would say, 2 teaspoons of butter. Not quite a tablespoon. We'll let that melt. You use 1 cup of rice. That's going to give you 4 servings, 4 1/2 cup servings. And you'll need 3 cups of whatever broth you're using. You may want to keep a little bit more in case it's too tight for you. Some people like a more wet risotto, and that's up to you. So let me just put this in here. I'm going to just saute the shrimp quickly. I put a lot of shrimp in here. This is 12 pieces of shrimp. Let me do a little seasoning on that. As soon as these turn pink and form a C, they are finished. Let me get my tongs. When they turn pink, you just flip them. And again, you don't want to cook these all the way in here, because you are going to cook them a little bit longer, and you don't want an overcooked rubber shrimp. When you buy shrimp, you should look for the words contents and then the word shrimp. You don't want anything else added to your shrimp. What happens in that case is you can't get a really good sear on a shrimp that has, I can't even pronounce the word, it begins with a T, trypta something. You can't get a good sear on those shrimp because they have uptaken some water, and that chemical is designed to let them hold that water. So you're paying for water weight. We don't like that. And you're also going to have shrimp that just keep exuding water in the pot and not give you a nice bite of shrimp. So whoever you buy your shrimp from, demand that you get shrimp contents, period. Nothing else has to go in there. And these are still going to be a little on the medium rare side, but that's okay. That's exactly what I want. Okay, those can go off to the side. The pan that I had these in has raw shrimp juice in it, so that's in the sink, and we're moving on. I just have a little bit of sort of the shrimp flavor in here, shrimp flavored butter, if you will. That's always a nice little thing. I have about a 1/4 cup of red onion. You can also use shallot, or just a small white onion is fine, little cooking onion. From now on, this is on a medium-low heat. So what we're doing here is we're not putting color on anything. We're not putting color on the onion, we're not putting color on the rice. We're going to sweat the onion. So this has become sort of straw colored, and I'm getting some fond on the bottom of the pan, which is okay. I don't want it on this onion though. So straw colored, becoming translucent. This is going to keep cooking. So at this point, this is when you put your rice in. And again, this is medium-low. I still have that fond. This rice, you don't want color on it, but do you see how you can see the kernel is white inside, and then around it has sort of a halo of, oh, I would call that translucency. Well, what that is the fat that is now covering each and every piece of rice, encapsulating it. And what I'm doing here is putting wine in there. That's a dry white wine. And that's the first thing that should hit your rice. If you don't like wine, if you don't have wine, then lemon juice is a good substitute. You do not want to use cooking wine. Whatever wine that's dry that you enjoy drinking, then that's the wine that you should use. So with this rice, Arborio is the most common. Carnaroli is another one. It's a higher starch, so some people prefer that to Arborio. There's also Vialone Nano. There's all of these rices from Italy that remain in Italy, and people in Italy will swear that that makes the best rice. But I think the best risotto is what you grow up with. The best one is what your mama makes, right? If I were cooking on the stovetop, I would keep this pot of hot liquid next to my risotto. And I go with a ladle full at a time. That's about a 1/2 cup. And I'm using this wide spatula so that I'm getting more stirring action than if I used a spoon, right? So you might want to think about that. You don't need to do much to this. What makes this creamy is that you're sort of gently pushing this around. Another thing about risotto that's different is I do not, and I think it's the only rice, I can't think of any other, that I don't rinse. So when it gets to be like this, then you can add one more installment. This takes about 20 minutes of just stirring, gently, kind of standing here. You don't have to stay here throughout the whole process, but you have to stay in the kitchen. Don't leave the kitchen, because you do have to stir often. I think this is something that a lot of people are afraid to try because they don't understand it, or another reason is they've had it perhaps in a restaurant and it wasn't made properly and it was gummy and gluey. That's not what it should be. At this point, this is something I forgot to talk about, is I'm going to introduce saffron into this dish, and I want to show you what saffron looks like. It usually comes in a small little vial like that, and as you can see, some of this is a beautiful saffron color, as we call it, and the ends, it's like the roots of it are a straw color. That is how you know when you are buying a good quality saffron. I'm just going to pinch it, rub it between my fingers, and put it in there. If it's not a good quality saffron, you'll know it because it's a dark color. It's almost like a burgundy, and it will have, it's one color from tip to end, unlike the one that I just showed you. That is something that is saffron, but it's dyed. And if you buy a saffron that is ground, pre-ground, who knows what you're buying, so do not buy that. So I'm going to just slowly add my stock. and just keep stirring, and I'll see you when this is finished. Saffron goes really well with seafood, especially shellfish. It goes well with meats. If you use too much, your dish will actually taste medicinal. So be careful with it when you get it. At this point too, you're still getting the rice to take up the broth and the flavors. So now is the time to season. This is tighter, but it's not soupy anymore. And I did taste it, and it is al dente. I think it has about 2 more minutes to go. So now I'm going to start adding the additions that I'm choosing, which are these asparagus pieces. And this just gets folded in. This could cook for a little while, so I'm also going to add a little knob of butter. In Spain, or in Spanish, the word for butter is mantequilla. And so I love this. The Italians took that Spanish word and they made it into a verb, mantecatura. If I mispronounce that, I'm sorry. But what that means is the very end, the very last process of making a risotto is adding butter to the dish. And what that does is it gives it a little shine, and it also gives it some more richness, and it refreshes the fat that you used earlier, which has been cooked into the dish. So now you have some nice fresh butter taste. I'm going to add the shrimp. Oh, I forgot my peas. I'm putting peas in here just because I had them. And it's a spring thing, right? And then these shrimp go in with the juices. Now these shrimp are really just medium rare, but by the time you fold these in and serve this, these will be perfectly cooked. I'm turning the heat off. And then the very last thing is Parmesan cheese. This is a Parmigiano Reggiano, which in something like this really does matter. Use the best Parmesan you can get, but Parmigiano Reggiano is the official cheese for this. You know, in Milan, they serve it a little tighter than they do in Venice. In the Veneto, people like it a little soupier. So you tighten this up or make it as loose as you like. And this is ready to serve. I'm doing a few more shavings of Parmigiano Reggiano. And just a few things about risotto. It should be served right away like a pasta. You don't want to let it sit around for 20 minutes. Get it on the table. The other thing is a heated bowl is best because it will retain that heat for longer. Also, I had a great question in a cooking class I was teaching on risotto, and that is, someone asked, why do you put seafood with cheese? Because the Italians don't do that. But actually the loophole to that is that Italians will use a cheese on their seafood dishes if there is a cream product in the dish itself. So you can, instead of putting butter at the end, you can use a little cream. People do that. But there's butter in here, and in some cases where there is cream, it's okay to use cheese, so that's how they get away with that one. And let me just taste this because it just looks delicious. It's delicious. The asparagus, you get a little pop from the peas, and the nuttiness of the Parmesan with the saffron, the seafood with saffron. This is a delicious dish. I hope you try it. Please let me know if you do, and enjoy. Thank you so much for watching. Bye, guys.